The Atlanta Braves shut out the Miami Marlins 7-0, tying the series at one game apiece and setting up a rubber match tomorrow afternoon. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. Jake Mastriani is still on his vacation, but I hope that he got to watch this one because this ended up being a pretty fun game. The Atlanta Braves take down the Miami Marlins 7-0. Getting a shutout on the road. And I want to get to the offense. I want to talk about how absurd Ronald Acuna Jr. has been. I want to talk about changing the lineup like they did to have Matt Olson bat behind Ronald. I want to talk about Drake Baldwin and Alex Verdugo. Don't let me forget the Verdugo stuff. But first, we need to talk about Grant Holmes, okay? Because on a day where you got terrible news about Chris Sale going to be out for some undetermined period of time, they have not given us a time frame for his return from a fractured rib cage. It typically is going to be measured in weeks and not days. I would imagine off the top of my head, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks or something. So you're in a situation where you lost a starter. You lost not only a starter, arguably your best starter, going off of results from the last year and a half in Chris Sale. And Grant Holmes was already a guy that I became convinced did not need to move back to the bullpen. You needed to keep him in the rotation. But after what he did today, I think you've seen that he is a starter, right? He can go to the bullpen and he can be useful there. But Grant Holmes deserves to be a starter because the stuff that he did today was very good. He finishes the game. It's not a super impressive sounding line, right? 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts, no runs allowed. Obviously, not allowing runs is impressive. But when you look at the way Grant Holmes did it, a lot of the jokes floating around Brave social media in this one were talking about calling Grant Holmes Houdini, right? Because he got a runner on third in the first, in the second, and in the third, and every single time stopped him from scoring. Okay, very first inning of the game, he gives up a leadoff walk to Xavier Edwards. After a flyout, Edwards moves to third on a single by Otto Lopez. From that point, strikes out Augustin Ramirez, who we saw hit the big home run on Friday, gets Kyle Stowers to fly out, inning over. You go back, he's up 1-0. He has a small lead here. Second inning, leadoff double to Eric Wagaman. Liam Hicks singles, puts runners on first and third. From that point, Connor Norby, strikeout, ground into double play by Dane Myers, inning over. He does it again in the third inning. There's a one out double by Jesus Sanchez. He steals third. And then from that point, Otto Lopez strikes out, gets Augustin Ramirez to ground out. Only in one inning did Grant Holmes face the minimum. And that was the fourth inning. And even then, somebody got on base. Leadoff walk from Grant Holmes. 5-4-3 double play. Fly out to right, inning over. And the fact that he was able to navigate these situations every single time, I think tells you that Grant Holmes is comfortable facing these hitters multiple times on a day when he clearly does not have his best control. He's still able to do more than enough to give Atlanta the victory and get out of that, not only in a position where Atlanta can win, but to get out of that with a scoreless outing after 5 2/3. He actually, half of all of the pitches he threw today were sliders. It's the highest usage I've seen for Grant Holmes of his slider in his career. He was around the 30% mark on the slider coming into today. 50% usage. He threw 48 of them in 96 pitches. Part of the reason he threw it was they couldn't hit it that well. 22 swings, 13 of those were whiffs, 6 more were foul balls. Only 3 were put into play by the Marlins. He threw the cutter, he threw the four-seamer, he threw the curveball, but the star of the show was the slider. And actually, Grant Holmes didn't get a single whiff on a pitch that was not the slider. So again, did not have his best stuff today. But one of the things we talk about when you can tell a starting pitcher is feeling good and is really in his stuff is when he doesn't have his best stuff that day. And his locations aren't great. And he's able to not only get through the outing, but in this case, to get through it scoreless. I thought that was fantastic. Enyel De Los Santos comes out, wraps up that 6th inning, gets a ground out to end it, gets 2 more outs in the 7th. They pull him for Dylan Lee, and Dylan Lee finishes up the 7th, takes the entire 8th. Rafael Montero in the 9th. I still believe, and I know a lot of people have talked about this, Jake's talked about it on the show, I still think Rafael Montero's 9th inning shows you that the Braves still have work to do in the bullpen, right? He faces 4 batters. He gets to full counts on each of the first 3 batters. And it was a way to take a 7-run game and still make it feel a little bit dramatic. It felt like Rafael Montero really struggled to get those final outs in the 9th inning. So great game by Holmes, given everything going on with his stuff not being fantastic. Not in any way to be concerned. His four-seam velocity was a little bit down, like half a mile an hour from his career average. He still touched 96 on the four-seamer. I'm not worried about any sort of issue there. I think he just didn't really have the four-seamer today. But he battled, and great start by Grant Holmes. In just a second, I want to talk about the offense. Ronald Acuna Jr. did a lot of stuff. Drake Baldwin had a home run today. And I want to talk about that lineup decision. We'll do that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. I had a friend who was wanting to buy tickets to a baseball game, and she had multiple browser windows open because she's trying to check the prices in one. She had tried to figure out what the view would be from the seat and where the sun would be in another. She had a calculator to do the math on what the fees and taxes and everything would be. And I'm like, there's a much better way to do this. Let me introduce you to Game Time, because Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices, on the app, they drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got fantastic last-minute deals. It shows you the view from your seat before you buy and gives you an all-in price with all of the fees and taxes and everything included, and a lowest price guarantee on that price. You don't have to worry about it's not a good deal because, again, they guarantee it will be the lowest price or you get money back. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to the Braves Postcast. I want to talk about the offense real quick, because this was something I had talked about this in the Mets series, and then it came back up last night that they technically didn't do enough to win. And I think today the Braves absolutely did enough to win. And so that's kind of you scored plenty of runs. It wasn't a blowout until the 9th inning, right? But Atlanta picks up 1 in the 1st. They pick up 2 more in the 5th. And the ways with which Atlanta was doing this, to me, was really interesting. First inning, Ronald Acuna Jr. walks to open the game. We're going to talk more about Acuna in just a second, but suffice to say, he's fully healthy, right? He's on first base, 2 outs. Marcell Ozuna doubles. He scores from first base. He runs through a stop sign, actually, from Freddie Gonzalez. Still scores. And checking the sprint speed and everything, he's running full speed like he normally does. You feel good about Ronald there. You turn around, you go to the 5th inning, And it's something where Nick Allen single. This is where I think the change from Orlando Arcia to Nick Allen really kind of pays off, because Orlando Arcia was, yeah, he could pop a homer every now and then, but he wasn't a great contact bat. And Nick Allen, while his batting average isn't awesome, he is much better at making contact than Orlando Arcia is. And so Nick Allen gets on via single to left. Ronald doubles, immediately brings him in. It feels like almost every single time Nick Allen gets on base, Ronald's driving him in. It's just he doesn't always get on base. And I think he gets on base enough for a number 9 hitter. Somebody in last night's postcast pulled the stats on how often he's been walking since Ronald comes back. And after that, it's something where Austin Riley singles to score Ronald. So double, single, you get a couple runs. Atlanta's putting them together the right way. And then you get to the 9th inning, and this is something where you see the classic Braves thing that they always do, where the 8th inning, Drake Baldwin singles, Eli White singles, and then you score on a ground out, right? 9th inning, Drake Baldwin comes back around, pops a 3-run homer. So absolutely, like, multiple ways to score today. And the thing on the Drake Baldwin home run, I do want to point out real quick, the actual pitch he hits is a sweeper down and away that is just absolutely dotted. It's a fantastic pitch. Goes down and gets it, and not only gets it, but pulls it to right center field. Fantastic piece of hitting from Drake Baldwin. That's a big league swing. It's a rookie of the year caliber swing right there. Fantastic piece of hitting. But Ronald was part of just about every single scoring play in this one. Since he's come back, he has been just an absolute machine. He gets on base 4 times today, double, single, 2 walks. He scores twice. He drives in a run. On the season, he's batting .391 with a .500 on base and a .696 slug. So this is what's absolutely wild. Okay, his 15 RBI in 26 games. That's the same number he had last year in 49 games. So he's ahead of pace on that. In the 2023 season where he won MVP, he batted .337 with a .416 on base and a .596 slug. He's beating every single number from his MVP season. Now, yes, this is a smaller sample size, right? This is only 26 games. But he's making more consistent contact. He's making better contact. He's getting on base a lot more. I mean, I can't do math in my head here. 84 points different between .416 and .500? And he's slugging 100 points better than the year he won MVP after hitting over 40 homers. This legitimately may be the best version of Ronald Acuna Jr. that Atlanta has ever seen. That feels like a little bit of hyperbole, but I genuinely can't think of another 30-game stretch, and I'm sure somebody's going to go look, but another 30-game stretch where he's been batting practically .400 with a .500 on base and a .700 slug. This is dominance, and it's been a month of it now. You saw Atlanta adjust the adjust the lineup to try to get more protection around him. Matt Olson moved to the 2-hole. I still think that's not a terrible move. Olson was 0 for 4 today, but in the last 30 games, he's batting .296 with a .583 slug. He's got 7 homers and 27 RBI. So I don't think that was a terrible option there. I do wonder if Marcell Ozuna would be a great option. And I mean, look at what Ozuna did today. 2 for 4 with a run, with an RBI. I feel like leaving Matt Olson where he's been, right? Batting 3rd or 4th, letting Marcell Ozuna bat 2nd would be the right way to do this. We'll see what Atlanta does, but I'm just glad that they stretched this lead out to a 7-run lead. I had everything prepped, a narrow Braves win because it was 3-0 going into the 8th inning, 1 in the 8th, 3 in the 9th to finish 7-0. We're going to have Bryce Elder tomorrow. and he will take on Sandy Alcantara. I'm curious to see what you guys are thinking that you're going to get out of Bryce Elder, right? He's been very, very good recently until the last time out when he stumbled against Colorado. He's facing Sandy, who is struggling in his return from Tommy John. He's 3-8 with a 6.88 ERA. So I feel like this game could go any of a number of different ways. Elder could shove. Sandy could shove. He's been good the last couple starts, right? This could be something where one of them stumbles. They could both stumble. It's an offensive shootout. There's really no telling what could happen in this game. But it's going to be incredibly interesting. And you need, though I think the worst case scenario here is for Elder to have a second consecutive shaky start. Because with Chris Sale on the injured list now for, I'm assuming, a month at least, probably longer than that, you really need to have Elder do well. You need to have, obviously, everybody else, Strider, Schwellenbach, and because, like, Dieter Fuentes is your fifth starter right now. You have a couple options in Gwinnett you can try to rotate in, but you don't have a set fifth starter. You're using a 20-year-old prospect who's made one start. So knowing that you have the comfort that Bryce Elder can be a reliable number 4 pitcher, can give you 5 innings every time, can keep you in the game, would go a long way. That game's at 1:40 tomorrow. We'll be back with another postcast to break down what happens in that one. Hopefully, we're breaking down a series win for the Braves as they prepare to head to New York for 4 Monday through Thursday against the Mets. Jake's going to be back soon. He will have an episode breaking down the Chris Sale injury and what all should happen. If you want to make sure you catch that, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you know when I've got a postcast, when he makes his return to the postcast after vacation, when he has episodes about Chris Sale and Atlanta's rotation options. Do you try to trade for Charlie Morton or somebody else? What do you do in that situation? So stay tuned for that. If you're listening on audio, by the way, leave a 5-star review, if you would. Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. Jake loves words of affirmation. I do too. Would go a long way. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.